Hi there, I'm Jonathan Gifford, with my co-author Mark Powell, Dr. Mark Powell. I am the co-author of The 5 Principles of Performance Thinking, and I've just finished a very enjoyable week of working with the Change Your World Everyday group, talking about the principles of performance thinking. Now, Mark and I developed this set of work mainly for the world of business. Mark is a management consultant, but he discovered a passion for dance, for Latin American dance, when he was a student at Cambridge, and he danced professionally throughout his business career, and he won more than 50 titles, I believe, and the pinnacle of his career was to win the World Championship in the over 35 category while he was a partner at KPMG. So Mark has had this parallel life as a management consultant and a dancer. And I worked in publishing. I worked for Fleet Street newspapers on the commercial side, and then as a publisher with BBC magazines. And for most of that time, well into my 40s, I played saxophone in various bands around London. So we both have this split personality where we have a business career and a performance career. And when we first met and were swapping notes, we both realized that we felt that our performance mindset was very different from the mindset we used in business. And in many ways, it was better. It was more productive, more creative, certainly more collaborative. And we both found that we were applying our performance mindset in places, in our business lives. And we wondered if we could make more use of that, as it were. So we systematize what it is we think that performers do, the 5 principles of how performers go about putting on a great performance, and we applied those to the world of business. And our key focus is on getting companies to think about their business performance not in terms of the classic key performance indicators, a series of metrics that we believe that we're hitting, which therefore proves we're on track, but much more as a performance, an overall performance. And the point of any performance is to delight the audience. It's to move the audience in some way. So we find it very useful to think about business performance in terms of, forget about the metrics for a moment. How is our overall performance going down? Now, in this week with Change Your World, we've taken those ideas and applied them to our personal lives. And if I just very briefly break down what we think are the key areas of performance thinking, I hope this might show how this can work. The starting point is the performance mindset. And what we say, Mark and I, is that the performance mindset is it's non-linear. It gets away from this notion that we can proceed step by step in a logical process to a known end, because we don't actually know the end when we set off. It's a creative process. And so it does go sometimes round in circles, goes down dead ends, it stops and starts, it sputters and fizzes. It's not a nice, tidy, logical process, and it helps to get used to that. Just think that's fine. That's how the process works. The performance mindset is holistic, as we would say, in the sense that it has an overall purpose. Any performance must have something that it wants to say. And that overall purpose informs the detail of everything that you do. So there is the big story, and the big story then informs all the parts of the little parts of the story. And we find that very useful thinking about our own personal lives, in that it helps us to focus on, well, what's the goal? What is the end of our lives? What would we see as success? What would be a happy ending? And when that is more in focus, that helps to inform the detail of what we're doing, and makes us think, well, which bits are important, which bits are moving me towards that goal, and which bits maybe not so much. So that holistic approach we found very useful. And then the final aspect of performance, the mindset, is that it's project focus. Every great performer, they do their best to put on a stunning performance, but any one performance is one in a long series of performances throughout which you continue to get better. So in Mark's dance term, you went to one competition for some regional competition, and you do your best and you really want to win it, but that's just, you're moving on then towards the UK competition or the World Championship. But at any point, there is always some bigger thing that you're going. So we thought about that in terms of our individual lives. The other key aspect of performance is that we're talking about ensemble performance, performance within a group. And the key thing about ensemble work is that everybody helps everybody else to perform well. If anybody puts on a dud performance, it lets everybody else down. It's no good you shining if everybody else is no good. So it's in your interest to help your performers to be great, because you can then spark off their great performance and deliver your own best possible performance. So ensemble work is supportive, and certainly in business terms, that tends not to happen because we're so competitive. When we think in terms of individual performances and mine being better than yours, and therefore me succeeding, at your expense, and that's fine. That's how the system works. Companies do need to get away from that, and there is more and more recognition that it's much more productive to build collaborative groups who work together towards the common end. That's an interesting way of seeing our own relationship with our close circle, our family and friends, and indeed colleagues. Are we trying to work in an ensemble way? Are we all working together towards a common goal, or are we trying to score points off each other? It's much more productive if we work as an ensemble. The key thing then that we talked about is that the way that ensembles work together is that they rehearse, what we call creative rehearsal, which is the process by which you, having come together and having decided the broad shape of your performance, you then work together to create that performance in a very creative way. And the key point of that is that everybody's ideas are welcomed. So any idea that's put out there, you work on it, you take it, you go with it, you see how far it can run. Maybe it doesn't stay there to the end, maybe something better comes up, maybe it just doesn't work, that's fine. But the point is that all ideas are welcomed, and indeed they are essential. It is your duty as an ensemble member to throw ideas out there. The other thing about ensembles in work and in personal lives is that they cannot be hierarchical. You can't have a boss telling people what to do, because that destroys the ensemble. So you might have a director who is kind of outside the ensemble, who nudges it in certain directions, chooses the best, most fruitful paths, but they're not in charge. So that's an interesting model. Hierarchy creeps into everything that we do. So if we're trying to build genuine ensembles in our lives, can we get rid of that hierarchy that does tend to seep into every aspect of our lives? We talked about practice. All great performances are based on hours and hours and hours of practice. You have to master your craft before you can get up on stage and perform. And we thought about whether it is indeed possible to practice important elements of our personal lives. And we thought that it was, that it's not that simple, but we can practice at being a better parent, or a better partner, or a better colleague, or a better neighbor. We can think about, how am I doing? Did I do that well? Could I do that better? The final aspect, really, of performance thinking is, apart from the delivery of the performance itself, which is the million-dollar question, but the narrative. Every great performance has a narrative shape. It tells a story, and the story is what locks us in. And this works in all performing arts. It works in music, even though there are no words. It works in dance, even though there are no words. Any successful symphony or dance tells us something recognizable. We can see some human aspect in this that takes us across a little story. And we found that really useful in thinking about our personal lives, because we said at the outset, the goal of our lives is a difficult thing to decide on, but if we reflect on it, we begin to get a notion of what we would see as success. What are the things that we really want to achieve in our life? And the thing about narrative is that a good narrative has suspense, it has setbacks, it has problems that are overcome, it has moments of peril, but these are resolved, and in the end we reach a satisfactory denouement. It may not be a happy ending, but it will be a satisfactory ending. It will have a nice shape. And we found that seeing our own lives like this was very helpful. So if we decide what the goal, what making a success of our lives would look like, then we can put the difficult aspects of life into perspective. We can think, well, that was a problem that had to be overcome, but I have overcome it, and here I am now in this new place. So we felt that keeping the narrative arc of our own lives in mind helped us, rather than dwelling on the difficulties, helped us to put our life in perspective and think, I am moving through this story in a satisfactory way. And then to round up, the final aspect of performance is remembering this doesn't apply so much in our personal lives, but there are certain moments that actually are key performances, and it's important not to sleepwalk into them. It's important to think, this really matters, I must apply myself to that. It's important to really be there in the moment for that performance. And then we looked finally at we would say that all performances exist within sort of three contexts. There is your own personal performance, which you're in charge of, and that's what you practice to improve. Then there is the ensemble performance, which is where it all happens. That's the key. That's where the performance is delivered. But then, just as actors will exist within an ensemble, they also work and live within the wider company, the theatre company, and that's true of most performers. There is some sort of wider community that you belong to. And you need to perform well in all of those three contexts. And so we translated that in personal terms to our personal performance. We can all work at our own personal development. Our ensemble performance, that's the key. That's the bit that really, really matters. Our performance within our close circle of friends and family, colleagues, immediate neighbours. And then there is the wider community. And it is interesting to reflect on how our performance is going down in that wider community. And that was it. That was performance thinking applied in the Change Your World context, applied to our personal lives. I thoroughly enjoyed the week. I hope that the members of the group did, and it's been a pleasure to meet them all. Thank you now. Bye-bye.